There are like so many cryptocurrencies. They are different from the Bitcoin, like the Dogecoin. So how do you see this phenomenon and digital assets scams?
Now, so digital currencies, again, by itself, there's no value. Just like stone by itself, it had no value before, right? But then as this digital currency are in the market for a long period of time, certain digital currency may get more trust among people who have been owning it. So as that trust can last a bit longer and more sustainable, then more trust will be built on.
Hi everybody, welcome to a new episode of Smart Talk. My name is Stefano. Before starting our show, please remember to subscribe to our channel. Today we will discuss about blockchain and fintech in Hong Kong. And I'm very honored to have with me two guests. They are Mr. King Leung and Mr. Kelvin Yu. What is blockchain?
I think blockchain, another more formal word, is distributed ledger technology. So let's just say there's this lady and then there's this gentleman. And this gentleman has been trying to date this lady for some time. Eventually, he won over this lady to be his girlfriend. Now, but then in order to make sure that she doesn't go back on her words to agree to date with him, he said, well, is it okay for me to announce to everybody in our common friend circle, let's say in WhatsApp, so that it's not just you telling me that you want to now date with me, but I want to make sure that I can inform the rest of the world, at least in our immediate circle.
That means there is no central authority to control the system. That means that no one has the ownership for that system. It is a distributed ledger. So I think there is more secure.
Now, and once that message is sent, right, so that fact is in the cell phone of all the friends in their own WhatsApp, right?
Okay.
Now, so even if this lady decides to change her mind, she cannot delete that message in every single person's phone. Okay. So in essence, this is what distributed ledger technology is.
The ledger itself, the data is kept in distributed peer. That means across different computer system and also geographic. That means there is no centralized database, so you can never crack down that system. That means no one can actually contaminate the data.
And that's why I think to some extent, why is it that most people say, oh, this is very secure. It's not that there's no perfectly secure technology in the world, but it's just that once that data is sitting in so many different databases, it's much more difficult to try to change them all. So this is, in a nutshell, what DLT or blockchain is.
Okay. What is the relationship between the blockchains or cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin?
This is a very common question, and in a nutshell, it's apple against oranges. So at the end of the day, blockchain is the underlying technology. We can think of it as the foundation. Now, on top of the foundation, you can build different things. Blockchain allows you to build different applications. And one of the use case is cryptocurrency. Yeah. But then, of course, there are other applications that build on top of blockchain going forward. So I think there's certain things that like what Kelvin's company is doing, which is fantastic, and I'm sure he will elaborate more.
Actually, my company is using the technology we call is a hyperledger fabric. It is a permission and private blockchain. It is a little bit different like the cryptocurrency because it don't have currency, but it is using the distributed ledger concept and immutability and auditability features of blockchain to how to streamline the business process. Especially my company we use hyperledger fabric to automate insurance claim. And before having our solution, actually, it is very manual process because we need to do insurance claim. We need to file the paper and then send back to the insurer or also send back to the clinic in my use case. That means it is a tedious process. And also the data is kept in both clinic and also the insurer. That means they always need to do reconciliation. With blockchain, then we can streamline that process and make the payment process becomes very fast and almost instantly. That's why I think blockchain can be applied in a business area. Actually, blockchain can be used in many applications, especially in corporate environment.
So on the market, there are like so many cryptocurrencies, and they are very new. And also, like, they are different from the Bitcoin, like the Dogecoin. So how do you see this phenomenon? And especially, how can like non-professional investors can avoid some digital asset scams?
Now, so digital currencies, again, by itself, there's no value. Just like stone by itself, it had no value before, right? But then as this digital currency are in the market for a longer period of time, certain digital currency may get more trust among people who have been owning it. So as that trust can last a bit longer and more sustainable, because then more trust will be built on.
Because more people are using, let's say, the same cryptocurrency, or that's why the cryptocurrency become like safe to use.
Right. Now, of course, the cryptocurrency are not issued by the sort of government-related organization. So that's why, to go back to your question, now obviously the regulators would come into play. So in the case of Hong Kong, the SFC, the Securities Futures Commission, they have literally just gave out the first license to the crypto exchange, just literally within these few days. So as a result, if I am someone who's not too familiar with this area, then I would go to a licensed exchange or like a shop, right, online shop, to buy the cryptocurrency. So that would at least allow me to have a little bit higher sense of comfort, because I know that entity is being regulated by the regulator.
Blockchain is not only Bitcoin, it's much more than that. And how does blockchain work for fintech in Hong Kong currently? Like, what are the main benefits or functions?
First of all, blockchain can be used in all sectors. It's not just like fintech or financial services.
Okay.
But it's just that finance, because we think about it, finance is about a lot of like information, data, money flow. So in some ways, the financial services is a prime sector to apply blockchain.
Okay.
Now, so we really think about the insurance, which Kelvin can talk about a lot more as he's an expert in that area. The other big area of blockchain application is the whole supply chain finance, trade finance space.
Okay.
Now, but even before we get into the details, we have to think about what is the unique characteristics of blockchain. Now, at the end of the day, the creation of blockchain, besides the technical aspects, it solves a very fundamental issue, and that is trust. Now, so when you have a lot of business people, different commercial entities, and also commercial entities or even governments are cross-border, right? Not everybody would know each other for like 30 years.
Okay.
We've been doing business with trust and all that. So now in today's world, there's just so many interactions with different organizations. So you cannot have the sort of instant trust, right? So blockchain provides that. Okay. Now, so let's just use one example. Now, when we think about the trade finance, supply chain finance space, now at the end of the day, when we think about, let's say, the automotive sector, which is a very complex sector with different layers of suppliers. Now, of course, I think if the company is the Toyota of the world, the Volkswagen of the world, no problem. They can get the loan quite easily. Now, but then for a supplier to Toyota, like 10 layers down, well, particularly in the current uncertain economic situation, maybe that like 10th layer supplier may not be easily able to get a loan, right? So now, but then what if Toyota said, you know what, we have been doing business with the first tier supplier, who knows the second tier suppliers and so on. So somehow, based on the data now being made more transparent through the blockchain, then we kind of know, based on the historical data, then that 10th tier of supplier, we kind of know the historical patterns. So these guys are pretty stable. So we feel that we are willing to kind of like give them like a guarantee, right? Yeah. So based on the sort of creditworthiness of Toyota, so again, based on the data, we feel that it's okay. So bank A, why don't you lend money to them? Okay, so in a way, they can also facilitate easier lending, particularly for those who may not have strong history or credit history with the banks and so on.
And what kind of supports are provided by the Hong Kong Stock Government or Cyberport?
The support from Cyberport or also the fintech, the Invest Hong Kong is very solid. For example, we can meet lots of the angel investor through the Cyberport network, and also we receive some funding because government is we got the CMMF and also the incubation program that we can get some source of funding so that we can start our own business at the very beginning. I think Cyberport create a very robust community that we can look for some partner. Actually, one of the insurance customer, that means the Bowtie, we go through the Cyberport network and then we can work together. So I think Hong Kong is doing quite well in that part. Yeah. So I'm expecting if our community can build up through all over the world, then we can link up together. Then it would be the best to all some company like us, I mean the startup, so that we can look for some cooperating parties outside Hong Kong as well. I think some obstacle for the blockchain startup is the senior management, because we always need to pitch the business unit. They are not very familiar with how the blockchain can bring benefits to them. And some senior management, they are very good at business side, but they are lacking of some understanding of the technology itself. They always think it is secure, but they don't know how secure it is. So I think for the blockchain startup, they always need to balance between the technology side and also the business idea side. So they need to turn their mindset how to interpret the technology into the business, so that they can understand how this technology can really benefit to the business itself. For example, when we go to pitch some insurer, we always explain to them that we try to hash everything. That means we never keep store any customer information to the blockchain. That means we use the hash technology. That means even though we store some information, but all the things is hashed. That means even though get hackers to hack those information, then you can never get the data. That's why we use different technology to pitch the insurer. Yeah. Okay. And make them understand how we can use the technology to apply on their business flow.
Because we also work very closely with Cyberport.
Okay.
So it's a great partner of ours. The same goes with Science Park as well. It's just that Cyberport started earlier. So of the 600 plus fintech organizations in Hong Kong, there are roughly like 400 residing at Cyberport. So that's why we work very closely. Now the one thing that Cyberport is fabulous is that they not only would provide the funding, but they also would align some either investors or like corporate executives to provide mentorship to the startup founders. Now, at the end of the day, most startup founders, oftentimes for technology startups, they spend most of the time on technology. Now, and to be honest, most of the executives in the commercial world, they would not understand technology anyway. Mm-hmm. So what would they base on to decide whether the contract is given to startup A or startup B? It's really going by the credentials of the founding team and also the number of clients that they have. The more clients they have, the more comfortable they feel. Now, but how did they do that? So that's why I think the mentors were very helpful to either make good connections to a certain senior level executive of an insurance company, and then based on understanding of the investor who is a very reputable, trustworthy person, and say, oh, this company is fabulous. And typically you have to offer, let's say, a test, right? Or in the industry term, we call POC, proof of concept. And you let the company try, it works, and then they can just roll out to a bigger scale. So the important thing is that they meaning a startup, will get clients. The more clients they have, the easier they can convey a story. Because after all, most executives would not understand the nitty-gritty of the technology anyway.